around with the our MLS the other day, and I was having a lot of fun with it.
Yeah. All right. How's everybody doing? Sweet. Well, it's 1 o'clock, and we have an appointment at 1 o'clock. It's actually 1:02, but who's counting? So we're going to just start like we do every Ignite. We're just going to go through and do our check-ins. How many contacts, how many notes did you write, and how many appointments did you set? Once we've covered all those three, then if you've got something else you've done that's working that you think the best that the group can learn from, then you can share that. We're going to start with contacts, notes, and appointments. Okay. So Tyler, actually, yeah, let's go Tyler.
Yeah, sure thing. I haven't set any of those today. It's kind of been a crazy few days here, but I'll be right back on that.
Okay. Debbie Frank.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I've just been doing some cold calling this morning, kind of working around with my scripts, playing with them a little bit, and haven't made any appointments, but I'm going to keep calling after class today. And I wrote some notes over the weekend to follow up on some contacts I had last week.
How many notes did you write?
Wrote 6.
Nice. Any appointments, 0 appointments, or how many appointments and then contacts did you add any to your database?
Just 1.
Okay. Abigail.
Hello.
Hey.
I haven't added any into my database, but this morning I reached out to a lot of my old coworkers. So I reached out to about 5 new people this morning that I'm going to add. I don't have any appointments, but I did get my box of greeting cards in the mail. So I've been writing notes all morning. I'm just waiting on my business cards to get here next week before I send them because I want to make sure to stuff them.
Okay. That works.
Wait, I'm in the wrong. What am I doing? Sorry. Goodbye.
Well, okay. And let's go with who's next? Nikki Miller. Nikki, are you there?
I am here. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm just catching up on all of the Ignites for the last however long I've missed, but I've been adding people into Command, and I think I've got 23 just added in there, and thank you cards with business cards in them sent out.
Sweet. Very cool. Zoe Hicks.
Hi.
Hi.
It's never mind. We had 3 people added to our contacts. 2 meetings completed, although they weren't really for listing appointments. One was an allied resource, and the other one was a friend who's thinking about being an agent and wanted to kind of find out more stuff. But I also gave her my business card and had her test our app. And then we had finally gotten some things in the mail with some of the cards that we filled out last week and didn't actually get them in the mail yesterday. So, I mean, last week.
Okay. Perfect. And how many notes and cards did you do?
Mailed 2 cards.
Okay.
And we added 3 contacts, and we had 2 meetings.
Got it. Ready? Stephanie Standridge.
Hi there. I had 11 contacts that I've spoken with since Thursday regarding real estate. I added 4 to my database that weren't already in there. I've written 3 note cards, and I have 2 more to do today, and no appointments.
Okay. Abigail?
Hi,
Hi.
I already went.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I did.
Remind me, because I put yours under somebody else's then.
Let me see. Oh, I didn't add anybody new to contacts, but I contacted 5 new people this morning, 0 appointments, and I've probably written 20 notes this weekend, but I haven't mailed them yet because I'm waiting on business cards.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. Perfect. Let's go. Jeffrey.
Hey, Zoe,
Same as Zoe. Zoe.
pretty much the same, but I will add, we finally did our RMLS training on Friday, which was nice to finally get into. I did the Paragon training beforehand, if no one's done that. They're doing free trials for a while just to get you used to it and probably get you excited about it. I don't know if you do that, Matt, but it was pretty slick.
Those are always great trainings. They can actually do a better job than I could ever teach. And occasionally I should probably jump into them. So, Brian Gibbs.
Let's see, I did 40 contacts, 10 notes. I got 3 buyer appointments this week and 1 listing appointment.
So you had 4 appointments? Nice. Chelsea.
Hello. I finished up my RMLS orientation. I scheduled for my introduction to Paragon. I made contact with my 2 current clients right now, both buyers, one first-time home buyer. I've made 3 business calls today. I've got my Instagram set up. I'm really trying to make sure that like my personal and my Instagram for business is super separate. Same with my Facebook, because I'm not like real big on social media and I'm like sort of private. So I'm trying to really like tie them together enough so you know everything, but keep them as separate as possible as well. So I'm kind of recreating everything. And then I kind of came up with a plan for myself. It's called 5 days, 5 businesses. And this is just something that like I kind of came up with because I think I'm better kind of face-to-face and one-on-one. And that's really how I like to talk to people. And I'm in the Thurston area. Got 2 little kids, and I think I'm going to be in the Thurston area for a while. So I really want to make my connections with the school, with the fire department, with, you know, my dentist that I use, with all the new places that I've gone since I've moved here. And so over the course of 5 days, I'm going to pick a business for each day, really set up a plan to do this like once a month or twice a month. And, you know, whether it's deliver Valentine's cookies that week to the businesses, drop off my cards, a thank you note just for being a business or being in the area, and just really try to incorporate that into like my personal plan of reaching out and meeting people in the community. And, you know, also it being kind of beneficial for like my family as well. And so anyways, that's what I've been working on, and that's kind of where I'm headed. And I have about 10 personal cards that I am sending out that are handwritten, and about 10 more flyers than I did previously for my sold listing. So being kind of productive, but I don't have any appointments set up.
Okay, perfect. Keep it up. Lauren.
Hello, Lorna Andraka. I haven't actually started with you guys from the beginning yet.
Okay.
I've done an Ignite program. I'm in Central Oregon, but I was really wanted to jump on this class and listen in. So thank you for letting me be here.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Julie.
Sorry, hi there.
Hi.
Just 2 contacts, no appointments.
Okay. Kel.
Yeah, I was so busy last Friday, Saturday with the open house, so had a bunch of contacts. So I'm working on doing thank you cards for all of them and sending text messages. And this morning I had another appointment. That's another buy appointment. So working on it too.
Okay. How many contacts do you think you made at the open houses? At the open house?
Oh, that's a lot about them. So we had the log. So that had about 60 plus, I guess.
Wow. Okay. So Friday was really good.
Oh yeah, awesome. Friday. Yeah, it was. I never thought even that, like, because I had the open house till 3 to 6. I thought after 5 o'clock it was dark and nobody gonna show up. But the people was lining up in the dark too. Even I cannot see them because I take like 3 at a time. So because of the COVID, want to do the restriction. Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah. Thanks.
Did I miss anybody? Christina?
Yes, I guess I am in the right class. I didn't see Morris. I know that guy, you know, because you did a class last week.
I did. I am the productivity coach I'm Matt. If anybody who doesn't know me, I'm Matt from Keller Williams Sunset Corridor. I'm the productivity coach. I work side by side with Mara and Shauna, and I will be here on Mondays. Shauna will be here on Thursdays, and Mara will be here on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, just to kind of introduce. And then then we teach as well. But then today we have special guests coming in to teach what works for them and teach the class. So it's pretty awesome. Okay. So what do you got?
I'm slacking. So I yeah, I have a lot of catching up to. I feel like I'm taking all these classes and I'm like not focusing on, you know, the lead gen. But I have a listing coming up, so that's good. Just need to get gathering all the listing paperwork for my seller. And then I did reach out to a friend that's a loan officer in Portland this morning, and they actually want to put an offer in on a rental property. So I'm going to call her after I run some comps and do some research on that one. So
we'll safely say 2 appointments. That's not slacking.
Well, I mean, the other one is already that one. Yeah, that I already had that appointment. So
the whole key is to get the appointments.
Yes, that's true. Good point.
Get in front of them, get the appointments, no matter how many it takes and whatnot. Let's see. How many people, if anybody will pull out their phones and text 5 people that you're thinking about them and just check in on them, see how they're doing through this. Who's on your heart today? And then we'll do that for about 5 minutes. And then I will introduce Stephanie, who's going to teach today. Let me see if Lauren, did you have a question?
What are we doing? Sorry.
Just texting 5 people that you can just say hi. It could be friends.
Oh, okay.
You're going to say hi. You're going to reach out.
Okay.
If you have any coffee shops open, if you have any, kind of deters when nothing's open. just let them know you're thinking of them and asking if you have any real estate needs.
Can we just say, hey, how you doing? Because then it seems so fake.
Yep, exactly. Yes. About having the conversations.
Okay.
I did this once in a class, and by the end of it, he had us do it for 20 people in the 3 hours, and the whole next week was full. So it's just reaching out and getting in front of people. And then I will okay. That should be good. And now we'll jump into today's Ignite class, which is going to be taught. Stephanie, are you ready? We'll wait till she comes back.
Hello. You waiting for me?
Yeah. Well, there you are.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, I've been right here.
Yeah. Well, I figured it's great to see you again. And I'm looking forward to this. Today's class is Price to Sell. I've made you the host. So, okay. So if I leave, because I've got other things to tend to, but I want to introduce you guys to Stephanie Coates. She's been in real estate since in September 2006 at the age of 18. So what started you on that journey at 18?
Oh boy. Well, that's a story. Long story short, when I was 8 years old, I decided I was going to be a real estate agent. So people always ask, were your parents realtors? No, they weren't realtors at all. I was just I had a real keen interest in real estate. And probably one of the most influential things about that time of my life was my parents were looking for another home for our family. And my mother looked for 3 years. And so I thank God every day that I was not her realtor, because I would have killed her. And so most of my childhood for 3 years was, we didn't have internet back then. So we'd wait for the paper on Saturday and Sunday. We'd, go through it. We'd figure out what open houses we were going to go to. And then my mom always drank the Mocha Lotta Chills from Cinnabon. So we'd buzz out to the mall, we'd get the Mocha Lotta Chill, and then we'd go to the open houses. And the realtors were always really pretty. They had their nails done and they had nice hair and nice cars. And I was kind of like, I got this. I that could be me, And so then when I was 11, I started delving into what the industry entailed aside from the pretty houses and the nails and the hair. And I think what impressed me the most was the idea of compound interest, and how basically very ordinary people that maybe don't have high paying jobs or high levels of education can invest in real estate. And over time, essentially they can make more than their counterparts that might be, you know, highly educated doctors, attorneys, like whatever. And it's really just more about how you allocate your funds and how much you make. And so at 11, that was fascinating to me. And so I have a book report from middle school on The Millionaire Next Door. I was going to real estate seminars, all sorts of stuff. And then my teachers were like, what are you doing? You're not going to go into real estate, because I was like a straight A student. I was like, no, it's what I want to do. And so I started taking courses at the college in real estate when I was like a sophomore in high school, because I was kind of like a little bit nervous that these teachers might be right. And anyway, I loved it. And I was like, no, this is my jam. And so then I graduated early and I went to a private real estate school in Salem. Finished everything up when I was 17, but I had to be 18 to get that dang license. So had to wait for a couple of months in order to like really get started. And been there ever since at Keller Williams. So anyway.
Love it. And we've come a long way since Pretty Hair and Pretty Nails.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I still have the nails and the hair. So anyway, it all worked out.
Welcome. I'm excited. This is going to be great. But Stephanie has been in the ALC for 8 years. Which committee are you in this year? Are you running?
Diversity and inclusion.
Oh, very cool. She's earned her principal broker's license. And in 2019, she sold 50 plus homes. Wow. Well done. How many people want to sell 50 plus houses? Everybody's hand should be up. And in 2000, she received the Eugene's 20 Under 50 Rising Business Star Award. So you guys are in good hands today. Congratulations on all of that. That's amazing. So well done. So without further ado, here's Stephanie Coates. Did I get the pronunciation right of the last name?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's just like it sounds.
Tough one, yeah.
Well done. So the class is all yours. If you want to screen share, do whatever you have to get set up and see that it works.
Cool. Okay, well, welcome everybody. I'm glad you're here. I'm going to go over price to sell, and the last couple of maybe 2 or 3 times that we've done this, it's not just my Eugene Market Center that I'm out of, but obviously several others. And so I'm going to use the RMLS and then our lid, which would be kind of what I would use in my market area. But I do understand that if you're not here, you certainly do have the equivalent where you are, and I'm happy to touch on what I know about that. So basically, kind of like how I like to start it is like from the beginning of, in the event I got like a phone call, from somebody that said they wanted to list their house, kind of what's the script, how do we go from, hello, I'd like to sell my house, to getting the pricing correct and then getting that on the market. So just kind of my process to do that. So first and foremost, you get the phone call and they say, okay, we want to go ahead and list the house for sale. And so at that point, hopefully I'm in front of my computer and I can kind of start to do just a little bit of the research while I have them there with me on the phone. So what I'll kind of show you what I would pull up. I'll go ahead and pull this here and then do a screen share. If I can figure that out, hold on. Okay. Oh, okay, did it. There we go. Okay. Okay, can everybody see my screen? Give me a thumbs up. Hopefully, yep, okay, cool. All right, so where we're gonna start is in our lid. So again, this is a service that we would use down in Lane County. So if you're in a different county, I'm sure you have basically the equivalent, but it's basically like the county records database. So I always start here as opposed to the MLS, because oftentimes you're going to get maybe exact information about what is on county records. And typically your MLS is going to pull information from here. This would be the source. So that's kind of why I start there and where I start. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up, it's an active listing. I like to do this because it's fresh and we kind of go through upfront, how I would go through this. So, so I'm putting in the address here. pretty easy, get results. Okay, here's the property we're looking for. So I'm going to pull that up. Okay, so now we have, so again, this is like our version of what we would have here down in Lane County. So I'm going to pretend that it is Allison Davis that's called, and that she wants to list her house at 1067 South 55th Street in Springfield. And we're going to go through how I would maybe ask her some questions and stuff. Yeah.
There's just a blank screen in front of us. Is that what we're supposed to be looking at?
No.
I think it's just another tab, maybe.
Bring my, okay.
Up across the top, it looks like Untitled is open. Looks like Regional Information Database. There you go.
Okay.
Is
Hold
that
on.
the one?
Thank you. Yeah, but it was supposed to be, hold on. New share. Let's try this. Okay. Okay. Now can you see what I'm looking at?
No, still blank.
Okay. I'm going to be smarter than the computer. Hold on. Let's see here.
You can always type it into the chat too.
Okay, hold on.
I think she is.
Okay. How about now? Can you see what I'm looking at?
Yes.
Okay, report. Okay, good. Sorry, guys. Okay, so we're gonna pretend that I have Miss Allison Davis on the phone. She's called to say, hey, I want to list my house at 1067 South 55th Street. And we're gonna kind of go through like how my line of questioning and what I'm trying to figure out here. So first of all, I would, okay, great, Allison. I've just pulled everything up in county record here. It looks to me like your house is 1580 square feet is what county records has, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. Does that all sound right to you? And so, with a newer home like this was of course built in 2016. Probably this is pretty accurate information. What I'm looking for her to confirm is, yes, that the information is correct, but I'm also trying to figure out what personality type she is so that I can then tailor my presentation and kind of the rest of what I'm going to do with Allison towards her personality type. So how I would know, and I think you guys have been through the DISC. So if she's a D, she's going to answer my questions really quick, rapid fire. Yeah, sounds good. Sure. If she is an I, she's going to giggle a lot. She's going to tell me she doesn't know. I don't know. It sounds right to me. I don't know. It's sure. If she's an S, she's going to be really quiet. She is scared to death to make this phone call. She's going to be very slow to answer. And if she's a C, she's going to argue with me. And she's going to tell me that it's not 1580 square feet, it is 1589 square feet. And she actually thinks it was built in 2017. And she's dead wrong, but I don't really care. All I'm looking for is to figure out what personality she is so that I can then tailor everything else that I'm going to do around who she is. So that's really why I asked these questions. County records is probably correct. The instances where it might not be correct and like what you as an agent would want to look for would be a lot of times properties that are older. Sometimes they have additions that may be permitted. Everything might be totally fine, but sometimes it's not reflected in county records. Or another issue, and this is something probably more central to like the Eugene area, if it's a property that maybe was in the county at one time and then has then been annexed into the city. So like a great example would be parts of Santa Clara and River Road. A lot of times the county's records, depending on how old they were all in the film, the microfilm. And so they weren't transferred to the city. And so sometimes everything's totally fine, but it might not reflect here because that's how it was. So those are maybe just some tips and tricks of like what to look for. So after I confirm with her, okay, 1580 square feet, 3-bed, 2-bath, you got a 2-car garage. Does all that sound right? Oh, yep, sounds right. Okay, great. The other things I look for while I'm on the phone with her are, I want to check to make sure she's the only owner of the property. And so up at the top, you'll see it says Allison D. Davis. And then if you go down here to taxpayer, owner taxpayer, it'll again list the names of the persons entitled to the property. Why this is important is because sometimes you'll have an owner and then sometimes you'll have two taxpayers or vice versa. And how that would occur would be, let's say there was a parent that like maybe they co-signed for the child. So they put it in the child's name, but the parent is still technically on title and they will still need to sign for listing and then of course selling the house. Two other scenarios where you'll want to be kind of aware of this would be if let's say there was a divorce situation, or maybe they're getting divorced, you know, you might have maybe Allison's calling, but maybe I look here and I see, well, it's Allison and Tom or whatever, you know, then I'd want to ask that question about, okay, so it looks like you are the owner, but I see Tom's on here too. Who's Tom? What's the deal there? Sometimes with divorces, what people don't understand, and we run into this often, is when they get divorced, if there is a home involved, just because they got a divorce decree that awarded the home to a certain spouse, unless they actually went down to the county to take that person off title or to refinance them out of the loan, they are still on title and they actually still have to sign to sell the house. And so I like to bring this up front because oftentimes, you know, sometimes you've got spouses, ex-spouses that are totally going to be cordial with each other and it's not going to be an issue. Other times that is not going to be the case. And it is certainly better to have that conversation up front versus, you know, once you get an offer accepted and then get to closing and then you find out that you've got to get somebody else involved that maybe doesn't know why they're involved. And a lot of times that comes as a big surprise to people because maybe they did the divorce, you know, 7-10 years ago. They had no idea they had to do this. So awkward. The last situation where I am going to look for this for, I'm going to ask a question now, would be if we see that maybe somebody has passed away. So again, same deal. What they will need to do at that point when we get to closing is they would need to have the original death certificate in order to sell the house. And so again, something that can be a little bit sensitive, but you know, you'd want to bring it up now because a lot of times people don't have that readily available. I had a situation a couple years ago where the mother had passed away years ago. The kids hung onto the house for whatever reason, finally decided to sell it. And it was the 11th hour. We needed her original death certificate and none of her 5 kids seemed to be able to locate it. And so we had to call DHS to get a new one. And you might not be surprised to know they really didn't care that we had a closing in 3 days. And so we had to delay everything for 6 weeks until DHS sent us a new original. So just stuff like that, where you kind of want to just be sensitive to it, let them know up front, and not spring that kind of stuff on them, you know, when they're packing their life up. And, oh, by the way, we need your ex-husband to sign, or we need your dead spouse's original death certificate. Do you have that? No, I don't have it. So I usually always will check and see, is there anybody else here? And then that way I can A, have those conversations up front so we know what to expect. And then B, you never want to be doing a listing presentation to just one spouse. You always want to have both decision makers there at the same time. Otherwise, you know, stuff can kind of get lost in translation, or you just kind of never really know how they're gonna repeat what you shared to the other spouse. So so I always make sure I know who I need to be presenting to, and then make sure they are all going to be present and accounted for at the time. The other thing that I look for, typically while I have them on the phone here, is and it's not gonna be an issue on this one, but your environmental data. So FEMA flood hazard zone. So like here, it shows it's in zone X, areas to be determined outside of the 500-year flood. So we're fine. There's a lot of areas of Eugene that will be in a flood zone. And so again, that's something that you'd kind of want to know upfront, and then have that conversation with them to see, do you pay flood insurance? How much is it? Who do you have it through? That kind of thing. The caveat to that I'll caution is that oftentimes, if let's say the house is paid off, they may have to carry flood insurance, but they don't know that because they don't have a lender forcing them to do that. And so that comes up a lot with like I've had some elderly sellers that, they bought the house, 30, 40 years ago. They've lived, it's been paid off for years. They had no idea they were in a flood zone. FEMA redrew maps about 15 years ago or so. So there's a lot of properties that never were in this flood zone that are now. And unless they've refinanced recently or had some reason to look into this, it's often they just don't know. So if they're in a flood zone on county record and they tell you they don't pay flood insurance, your next question is, do you have a mortgage on the home? And then that would probably help you to determine if maybe they do have to, the new buyer's gonna have to pay it, just your seller just doesn't know that. And then, next thing that I would do would be if that's the case and they claim, nope, I don't have flood insurance, I don't know what you're talking about. But you think, well, everything here seems to indicate the new buyer is going to have it. I would just call your insurance agent, whoever you have a relationship with, and just ask them to pull it up in their database and see if there is an elevation certificate, what they can find. And that way, again, you can go into your listing presentation and then, of course, selling the house educated and knowing what is going to be necessary, because that being in a flood zone can definitely affect your price that you price it at. And then, ultimately, I've seen it where people don't know that, and it isn't a flood zone. They do have to carry flood insurance. We're in the process. We're done with inspections. We're done with appraisal. We're at the 11th hour. And oh my gosh, we now have, a $1,200 a year flood insurance bill that nobody knew about. And oftentimes that can really kill your deal. So good to know upfront. So those are kind of my line of questioning that I run through with the seller. And then I typically will, at this point, okay, great. So it's 3-bed, 2-bath. I'll usually ask about updates and improvements, see if there's anything that they've done to the property that maybe I should know about before I go out. That way my research that I do upfront will be accurate. In case they've done a major remodel, or sometimes, if you know the people, sometimes you can kind of figure out what you're walking into before you get there. But certainly other times you are quite surprised and it could be not as nice or much nicer. So usually I just ask those questions and then set the appointment. And then usually in the interim between now and when I do the appointment, I will then kind of work up the market analysis, which we're going to work on next. So I have my county records here. So I'm going to use this. This will be kind of my sheet I'll use to start with. And then the next thing I'll do is I will go into the multiple listings. So I'm going to attempt to share my screen again, hopefully successfully this time. Hold on.
So Stephanie, you said, I'm sorry, Stephanie's your name, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I just want to make sure I remember that right. See, at which point were you looking up all this information, like as you're setting a listing appointment, just to make sure you're going into there primed and ready to have a good conversation or something?
Like in my perfect scenario, I'm at my desk when I get the call. I've got my computer in front of me. I can pull it up and I can ask them all these questions like right then and there. Yeah.
Okay, so this is really something you're doing. If someone's calling you asking to set an appointment.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that makes sense.
Well, I mean, it really doesn't matter. Like even if it's an online inquiry or like whatever, like or let's say they inquired or, I mean, however, yeah, I always want to talk to them ahead of time to make sure before I start doing a bunch of research in the MLS or elsewhere that like all the information that I have accessible to me is accurate. So.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Can you guys see my new screen, the RMLS desktop? See it. That what we see. Okay, I see some nodding. Okay, cool. All right. So from here, what I will do is I will go and I'll pull up the property. So I'm checking now to see, has it been listed before? What's the history on the property? So I usually go into the tax main, pull it this way. So, alrighty, so then we've got the property. So then I usually hit history just to see. So then I see here that it looks like the listing was canceled at one time. So this is actually great because now I can kind of see some pictures and it looks like they're probably recent. This was 2017. So I'll pull it up. I'll kind of look through what are we walking into? Okay, so cute little Hayden home. Looks like it's in good shape. Looks like they're pretty tidy for the most part. Nice little yard. Okay, cool. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. And then I'm also looking just to make sure like all the information again that I previously had pulled appears to be accurate here as well. And there wasn't anything, different about how it was listed previously. So everything looks good. It looks like they had attempted to sell for $305 back in 2017. Apparently that they did not sell. So when I meet with her, it'll probably be a question I'll ask. A lot of times if you ever work like expired listings or canceled listings or even just when I got this listing, I wasn't soliciting those types of listing. It just happened to be that it was a canceled listing. But I was kind of like asked like, okay, well, what did you get offers? Like, did you get feedback? Like, what was the feedback? Because sometimes as agents, like we walk into the house and we think, well, gosh, this should sell. No problem. And then it's always very interesting to me because sometimes in those conversations, I'll hear things that buyers had an issue with. And so it's kind of nice to know that up front so that you can maybe try to combat those issues up front, whatever they might be. Sometimes they're really, really goofy issues, but always good to ask that. And then the other thing I glean from that question is sometimes they'll complain about their ex-real estate agent, and so it's good to like listen to them and just kind of hear like what were their pet peeves, because again, a lot of times I think how the general public perceives what we do is oftentimes very different than what we're actually doing. So it's always kind of good to hear like, oh, that ticked you off. Huh. Okay, cool. I won't do that. Even if it would be something like super normal that we would just kind of do as a matter of practice. So I kind of always try to probe a little bit and get some feedback about, why it didn't work out or whatever. Okay, so there we are. So I see that. So my next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start my market analysis report. So in RMLS, I will begin by going to search, advanced search. And then from here, I'll start with area. So it's in Thurston, so I'm going to go Thurston. I guess I would just caution you that like how MLS gets their information is it's what the realtors put into it, right? So sometimes you have realtors that will accidentally put stuff in the wrong area. And so you kind of want to try to be like smarter than the realtor. So like areas like Thurston, like you might also include Springfield if it's pretty close to that area. Or another one I see a lot of overlap would be like Santa Clara and River Road. So a little trick, and then the last thing is like there's some areas that are super, super big, like let's say South Eugene. So it's huge, right? But there's little pockets of South Eugene, like right by the University of Oregon, that are going to be way more expensive than, let's say, something up at the top of Donald or like, I don't know, downtown. So sometimes to try to narrow that down a little bit, what I will do is I will go to elementary school. And so I'll put that in here and then I'll just select whatever the elementary school is for that particular property. And a lot of times that'll help just to narrow down and like pull in really tight comparables. If you're getting too few, maybe try middle school, but that's a good way just to get like neighborhood specific if there's ever like a property that you're just getting way too many on or a situation like that. So for this one, we'll just stick with Thurston. Right now, things are selling really, really, really fast. So just to get enough comparables, I'm going to go pending back 3 months, sold back 6 months. I mean, in all honesty, you could probably go sold back 3 months, 2 months, and you probably are going to find a handful of sales. In either case, I probably just do this like for demonstration purposes. Property type detached. A lot of agents get confused and think detached means a garage. That's not what that means. It means a detached single family residence. So like a house. So just know that sometimes that's an area where people have some confusion. And I oftentimes will find listings miscategorized that don't show up correctly on Zillow and stuff. If you're ever trying to find a needle in a haystack, try searching stuff that's attached, because again, sometimes agents just input stuff wrong, and that can be sometimes why it's that way. So anyway, okay, house is 1580 square feet. So for square footage, I'm gonna go like 1400 to, I'd say 1700. So usually you wanna do, 100 or so on either side, just to kind of encapsulate that. It was built in 2016. So I'm gonna probably go, I don't know, 2012 to I don't know, 2020. How about if it's ever like an older home, like let's say a 1970s home, I mean, you probably are going to put bigger parameters on that, like I don't know, 60s to 89. But something like like pretty new, like 4 or 5 years old, I probably would just want to keep it only with the 4 or 5 years old homes and not go too old, because then you're going to experience different neighborhoods and more wear and tear. So update. Okay, next I'm going to count. Okay, so I have 11. So that's probably a decent amount. Like our inventory right now, and I know you guys are newer at this, but this is like crazy low inventory. And so like if I were to have done this, let's say 7 years ago, I probably would have come up with like 40 different matches. And so in 6 months, there's only been 11 sales. So this, just to put in perspective, like we just don't have a whole lot of data to go off of. So I have that. I'm gonna hit. Yeah, pops up. Okay. So what I find here is, so as I'm looking down here, they're all 3-bed, all 2-bath. They're all kind of in the same neighborhoods of what I'm looking for. It looks like some of these are 1574, so it's probably the same floor plan. And then you've got some that are it's a Hayden home, Hayden development. So this is of course just the one that's a little bit smaller. So I'm definitely going to be a little bit more focused on these 1574 ones, but we will go ahead and select all records, and except for our subject property, because that's our surprise. Okay, agent full. So then I will go through these. So here we go. This one, I mean, I'm still going to use it as a comp, but I don't believe it is not the same builder. This is not a Hayden home, so it's a little bit different. But looks like 3-bed, 2-bath, 1506 square feet, 385. It is new construction. So, okay, cool. I'm going to look here to see that it looks like it was never on the market, sold before it was even listed. So there's that. Next I see, so here's Hayden homes, but these are the brand new ones. This is of course the smaller floor plan. So I would exclude those because I have enough comparables that are the same floor plan that I don't need to use these. If that wasn't the case, you could use these and then just kind of adjust your formula up a little bit. Okay, here's another one. Yep. Okay, so here's the floor plan we're looking for. So it looks like $369.90 was the base price of the house, and then I kind of want to look and see what amenities this also came with. So it looks like it came with an RV pad. With new construction, sometimes, of course, it might be a good idea to call the listing agent or the builder just to find out, like, okay, were there any extras in here? And then how does it, of course, compare to your listing? And especially like Hayden, they usually don't landscape. Sometimes they usually don't add air conditioning. That's an extra. They usually don't fence. That's an extra. So there's a lot of little things that might, like a resale Hayden home or tract home, like might sell for a little bit more because it has blinds and it has a yard and grass and sprinklers and all those things that they just don't do standard. So good question to ask. Looks like we got another one here, but that's a smaller one. I'm gonna take that out. Another one here for 366, same floor plan. So probably again, what I would do is I'll just call and find out, like, okay, what, where the upgrades. Then we see one here for $397.9. So it looks like this one had white cabinets, gray quartz countertops, laminate flooring, stainless steel appliances, RV pad. So this is probably a lot more similar to the one that I will be listing. So I want to kind of pay attention to that. And that is all. Okay, great. So then I have my comparables. So then I'm going to go to CMA report. And then here, hold on, since I already have this, I already have a profile loaded for these folks. Hold on here. No, where are they? Oh, they were in here. Okay, well, maybe not. Okay, maybe not. Maybe I don't. We'll do a new one. Okay. So here we have our comparables. So they're all 3-bed, all 2-bath. They're all about the same size, if not exactly the same size. So I am happy with that. So I'm going to do new profile, go to next. Okay. All righty, next. Okay, so then we just kind of input all the information about the property, and all kind of easy, and then it'll find it and map it. I would always, like, because of how the report is going to generate for you, I would always put as much information as possible. That way the computer will map everything correctly, and it'll look very nice. Okay, so then I hit map. Yep, looks good to me. And then if I had a picture, I would put the picture in. With that, I will say a lot of, if I can, I will usually either steal a picture from online somewhere if there is an old one online, and that is totally fine if you're using it for the report. You of course can't use it for advertising, just to have on the report so it looks like a little bit more complete. Or if I can, I will go drive by and just take a quick little picture of the front of the house with my cell phone. And again, this is just for the report. This wouldn't be for any marketing or anything. But I think what that does is it just shows the seller that, like, you went the extra mile, you drove to the house, you drove by, you took a picture, like, you looked around. So I think if you're competing with other agents, it at least will hopefully show that you took, you know, some initiative up front. Where I wouldn't do that, and I just would kind of like make sure I knew what sort of situation I was walking into. Sometimes it's a rental and there's tenants in there, and maybe the seller owner hasn't told them that they're thinking about selling. So if you show up and take a picture of the house, especially at COVID, everybody's home, then they might freak out. And so we don't want to scare our tenants. Or I've also had awkward situations where you know, it's a divorce situation, but maybe one spouse doesn't know that they're getting divorced yet. So you'd want to just kind of know before you go showing up to take pictures. But if you can, I totally would recommend it because I think it makes your report look a lot better. So we're gonna hit save. Features. Okay, so we know the house is 1,580 square feet. It's 2-bedroom or 2-bath, 3-bedroom. It's not a foreclosure. Our exterior description is lap. We do have a fireplace. We do have an attached garage. Our heat is forced air. And again, all this stuff is stuff that I found from the county records that we already pulled. One level. Oh. And then property type again, so it's detached, which means detached single family home, has nothing to do with the garage. Year built 2016. Our zoning is low density. Okay, cool, save. Okay, so then next, so that I see my comparables here, to adjustments. So some agents will go through and they will then make adjustments up or down based upon, you know, the different features of the home. So like, let's say we have in our comparable, it is a forced air system. It appears that this new construction here is a ductless. So I would probably say the ductless is of course inferior to a forced air system. So like this might be where you might say, okay, well, we're gonna deduct, you know, I don't know what you deduct, $4,000 maybe, I don't know, from your comparable. And that way, whenever it shoots out the report, you have, you know, kind of checks and balances within it. Where I caution you on that is that, you know, appraisers have this book that they purchase, I believe it's quarterly, and it's like $1,200. And that has all the numbers in it as far as like what a half bath is worth, what an extra bedroom is worth, based upon the market trends at that time. So like, to me, unless I can like defend my argument of why I'm going to say this Douglas is worth more or less, or like why your half bath is worth more or less, like I'm probably not going to adjust, just because I don't necessarily, my argument's going to be I have 15 years of experience and that's just what it is. But that's not really a solid case. So I think unless you have like evidence to back up why, like I usually don't do adjustments. I think you have a class with Terry DeBose and she will do adjustments. So we're all independent contractors, like do whatever you want. But I guess I just think like if my seller were to point blank ask me, well, how'd you come up with that? I don't know that I would have like an answer like that would be real scientific. So I usually don't, unless it's something a big deal. Okay, so then we go here. So then the last page, or our recommended price page, we get to see, okay, we have one pending. It's at $385. I see here that it went pending in 2 days. We have 4 solds. It looks like the average was $374,884 and our max was $397. I see the average price per square foot here and the average days on market. Now this would not necessarily concern me because these are new construction properties and oftentimes they're listed for a lot longer because they're under construction. If you had one that you were doing that was not compared to a bunch of new construction and you had like a really high days on market, I probably would go back through and see which comparables are skewing that, because right now our inventory is in Lane County, we're at 0.6 of a month. So like if we say 0.5 of a month would be like 2 weeks, like 15 days. 0.6 is like what, I don't know, 17 days. So like if something's taking 46 days to sell, like there's an issue. So I would go figure out like, okay, which skewed our numbers, and then maybe even go call the listing agent or see if you can figure out, you know, what the issue was, because I'd want to know that, and I'd want to also maybe adjust like expectations for my seller based upon that, because most things right now, as you probably are all super well aware, sell, you know, within a day or two. So anyway, I'd pay attention to that. So here we've got kind of our numbers. So what you can do here is you can kind of input, if you want to input like the average price per square foot. So it looks like $239. So that brings us, right here to about our average. Max, I mean, it looks like our max for this would probably be right around the $397. So there's our difference in price per square foot. And then recommended price, I may or may not put it on here, like depending on if I know the people and if I know what I'm walking into, then I might, because I'd be overly confident in like what I knew what it was. If it was like somebody I didn't know, I'm going to their house for the first time, I think I know what I'm walking into, but I'm not really sure. I probably wouldn't. I probably would just like leave all this blank, and I'd bring the comparables and I'd be ready to talk about them. But I wouldn't maybe go in there, you know, with saying this is exactly what your house is going to sell for, because I think maybe we're not sure yet. The other thing too is if you ever have a seller that like, you know, and this is like where you figure this out, right? If they're the high D or the high C in your initial conversation with them, then they're probably going to argue with you. So sometimes I don't bring an analysis that has a price on it, because I would rather let them tell me what they want and then back out of it another way. Or, you know, I guess I don't want to go in there and say this is the end all be all, because it might not be. And I also want to keep the client. I don't want to take the client off in the beginning, and I want them to feel like this is a partnership and like this is a teamwork thing. So if they have some crazy idea of what they want to sell it for, great. I mean, this market, it might happen. So I had a situation last week where I had a listing in Veneta that if I showed you the analysis there's like no way you could even get it to 500, like no way on the comps. Just can't do it. It's in Veneta. And so we listed at 489, And then my seller comes back to me and says, oh my gosh, we just did the numbers on the flip and we actually need to get 550 for it. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, what? Well, we actually got 550. So after multiple offers. So I mean, thank God, amen. However, you know, sometimes, especially in this market, like if a seller tells you something is absolutely asinine, I've come to understand that like they might actually get it. So I'm not going to sit here and tell them, you know, that they can't, if that's what they want to do. I mean, I guess just understand the conversation I'll have is like, okay, average days on market right now would be X. In this case, it's probably not 46 days. It's probably like 10. So if they said something crazy and I totally disagreed, then I would probably indulge them at the higher price with the understanding that, hey, Mr. Seller, you know, our average time on market is 16 days. So let's list it at your price. I'm going to do everything I can. I'm going to market it. I'm going to open house, flat, like everything, right? Like stand on my head outside, just sell it at that price. If after 16 days, heck, let's make it 20 days, we don't have an offer, can we agree that it's probably overpriced? And usually they'll say, yeah, I would think so. It should be sold in that time. Okay. And at that point, we can maybe agree to make an adjustment. So sometimes that's like sort of your script to like, you know, help them feel like they're not, like they're getting what they want. And I think you have to understand that like all of your buyers and sellers, they go to work every day and they work with people that are probably buying and selling homes. So they have their coworker at work who put their house on the market and got $100,000 more for it. And so sometimes that's what's driving their decision to sell right now. And frankly, we're in kind of a wild market. So, I mean, they just might get that. I don't know. It could happen. So, anyway, there you go. So hit save, cover page. So then I usually on here, I'll always input that, put the picture, and then for features, especially if you haven't been there before, like I don't like make stuff up, but I just kind of put stuff in here that like I know it has. So like open floor plan, RV parking, or you know, just whatever features. And again, that's just kind of so that it makes the front of your report, you know, look nice. Okay, hold on. So here, add picture, upload. Okay, cool. Okay, and then we hit report. So then here, I usually don't do a signature page unless you really want to. You can add information about your company, your resume, so on and so forth, and then save, and then it allows us to generate the report. So hold on. There we go. Okay, back. There we go. We wanted the picture in there. Okay, perfect. So then we have our nice little cover page. We've got our table of contents. We have all the comparables that we just went over. And then we have a little map of where they all are. And then here is where, this is probably the page that I like the best whenever I'm like going over it with them, because you can see what was the list to sale price ratio. So here 103%. What were the terms? FHA, conventional, how long did it take? And then days on market. So again, these are super high because it was new construction. And then of course it's totally skewed because you've got some 0 days and some 99 days. So I would pay zero attention to that. And I probably would bring them just the statistics sheet for Lane County. And then for like Thurston, like your TMO report, and probably go off that if it was the situation. So here we've got all of our comparables again, and then we get back to this page. So this is the other page I like because I like down here this sentence. Sold properties closed averaging 100.85% of their final list price. So we can assume that wherever we listed at, we're probably going to get, statistically speaking, 0.85% higher than our listed price because that's what everything else is selling for. So I usually go over that with them and help them to maybe price it aggressively, like in a good price bracket, knowing that we're probably going to get more. Another place where this whole sentence is like super helpful is like, let's say you're working with buyers that maybe don't quite understand the market yet. And you're trying to explain to them that like, look guys, you're going to have to bid over the price to get the house. So sometimes I'll just do a market analysis on a fictitious house, but just like the type of house that they tell me they want to buy. Like I want a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house in, Santa Clara in this price point. Okay, great. So I just, put the parameters in, and then I just show them like, okay, here are 10 homes that have sold in the last 60 days. Here's the list to sale price ratio. So as you can see, all of these homes are getting 2-3% higher. So like in order for us to win the bid, like we're going to have to employ this tactic in order to do that. And sometimes with buyers, especially like if you can present them with this information when it's not emotional, like it's not about a specific house, it's just about general, like, okay, if you want to buy a house like this, a lot of times that information goes over a little bit better than if it's, they're emotionally excited about a house and so on and so forth. So anyway, there you go. So here's the analysis. So when I go to meet with them, I bring this. Hold on. Oopsie. Okay, we're back. I bring this. I bring the county records information. I usually bring like a marketing proposal plan, information about myself. And then the other thing I do is I use an app called Fidelity Agent. And lots of the title companies have something really similar, but it basically allows you to prepare a net sheet for the seller. So if I could show you on here, I would. But I don't think you'll be able to see my phone well, maybe you will. Let's try this. So it's an app. And so basically you can go in and then you can put in, I'll show you real quick. Loading. Seller. Okay, so we're going to pretend the house is going to sell for 400,000. Put in your commission, and then I get the property tax information, and then I choose a closing date. So, okay, so if I do all that, then I compute it, and then it basically gives us a, like a, I don't know if you can see that or not, but basically like a breakdown of exactly what their closing costs are going to be and like exactly what their net would be if they sold for that price. So sometimes people like they know that there's a commission to be paid, but like they don't realize that they're going to have to pay some fees to the title company. And while those are not huge, it's always good for you to be able to have that conversation up front. And sometimes they think 400,000, they think they pocket 400. And so it's nice to, be able to sit down with them and say, well, actually at 400, you pocket, X. And then sometimes that opens the door to a great conversation about like specifically what they need to get out of the house. Because sometimes people, the reason they're selling is because they need to walk away with $72,000 or whatever their magic number is. And then you can also, like if they're going to buy another house, that also really helps them to be able to figure out, what down payment they're going to have. I saw in the chat, somebody wants to know, that one is Fidelity Agent. And I think like First American has a similar product, but if you contact like your Fidelity rep, they will get you signed up for it for free. And it also just the app itself, like, so you can do the net sheet, you can do sell to net. So if they say I have to walk away with 50,000, you can plug in 50,000 as their net goal and then all the other information. And then it'll tell you exactly what their break even number is to get there. It'll do the same for buyers too. So now, like, obviously you send them to a lender, but if they're like, what would the payment be on this right now? It'll allow you to put that all in and tell them, give them the thing. You can text it to them from your phone. It's super slick. Or you can send them reports. It has, you can pull amortization schedules out of it. Like it's a really fantastic tool and it's totally free. So I would highly recommend everybody get signed up for it. I use it all the time. Next question. Do I give buyers a deadline to bring offers for your listing or first come first serve? Kind of depends, I guess, like depends on what the seller wants to do. Some agents as a general rule, they always do the deadline. I think in some cases it kind of evens the playing field, but in other cases, like maybe my clients have, like, they're selling their house to buy another house, and like we are under the gun to like get this thing under contract. In that case, I'm not going to play any games. Like when we get an offer, we're going to take the offer. I'm not going to be like, oh, I'm going to wait till next Tuesday to take offers. Just depends, right? Like if this is a we just want to sell the house kind of thing, and we do have time, then I might be more inclined to do that. Ultimately, I'll ask the seller, like, what do you want to do? And I give them the pros and cons of either situation, just so they can kind of figure out what they, prefer to do. But yeah. So there's that. Yeah, I think the last thing I do is I always go into the MLS again, and depending on like whatever price I'm going to recommend or price bracket, let's say, I will go and I'll search to see if I was a buyer right now today and I was going to buy in that neighborhood and about that price, like what else would I be looking at, just so that you can make sure that like you can price the home appropriately and like the competition. And I mean, I'd say that because A, you want to know the competition, but B, you need to appear very intelligent for your seller, and that you know the market. You are a market expert. And I will guarantee you, if they have called you to sell their house, they have been on Zillow and Redfin and all the other websites probably for a couple weeks now, scanning all the inventory, seeing what's out there, and that's how they've determined what they think their house is worth. So correct, not correct, I don't really know, that's debatable, right? But just understand that you don't want to come to the table with all of your comparables and then have them say, well, what about the house around the corner? And then you don't know what the heck they're talking about. So I always go in just like I'm a buyer and like kind of see what else there is. Other things, like on a Zillow app, which like we don't really like use as realtors, I do always check the Zestimate, because guess what? My buyer or seller checked the Zestimate, so I should know where that came in at, and then be able to either dispute or agree with that Zestimate, right? Because as we all know, they can be kind of all over the place. Sometimes they're totally accurate, sometimes not. But I would check that. And then, also like for sale by owners, sometimes those are not even going to be on the MLS. They're going to be nowhere to be found in any of the normal avenues that like a realtor would be using. So I like to go in and just kind of see if there's any other data that I should be looking at before I meet with them. Zillow also, like if you pull your own house and like try to get your own like Zestimate, it will show you the comps that it thinks are comparable. So I kind of always check that just to sort of like cross-reference my work and just, did I miss something, or is there something that my client's going to see that might, be better or worse, that just I should be aware of before we have that meeting. So anyway, so that's kind of what I do. What questions do you have?
So I have a question on pricing with this one. So I went and looked at the RMLS, looked at the Redfin, looked at the Zillow. I noticed on this one, obviously in today's market, there's not a lot of inventory, right? So maybe it's a moot point, but in maybe more of a balanced market, I noticed this one has power lines behind the property, right? So good and bad. There's space behind them. There's extra space behind them. They're not backed up to another house, so there's some privacy there. Power lines, obviously, some people would look at as a negative. So how do you have those conversations with people? Does that make a big difference in your pricing when you're looking at comps in the area? Like if there wasn't anything else on the block that had sold in, let's say, the last 6 months, how would you take that into consideration on pricing?
Awesome question. So yeah, like they're totally right. Sometimes you have, kind of these interesting little things that might impact it either way. I mean, in this market, like there is nothing to buy. So like it will sell.
Right.
I probably okay, let's just pretend it was a balanced market. We had 3 months of inventory, and this was maybe can be more of an issue where, the buyer had 7 other houses to choose from that they could potentially purchase. Something like that, I'd probably say you need to deduct like 10 grand. You know, and I mean, the same would go, like, there's some houses that are like next to power plants or like substations. You know, and I really don't know, but you know, there's some people that believe that's very, very, very bad for your health. And so in some cases, they're just not even gonna look at it, you know. But I think those that aren't maybe as concerned about it, they know it's gonna be an issue for resale. So that's probably, I would probably recommend, you know, adjusting the price a little bit for that. Yeah, great question.
Okay. Thank you.
What else?
Stephanie, I'm curious that you said you use that MLS, RMLS. I know there's other products out there, and it just seems like it's such a relationship-based business. Everything from the very beginning was trying to figure out their personality type. So how much weight do you give to the quality of the look and feel of the data itself? And is that worth investigating and finding something that looks great? Or do you just put all your cards into your ability to read the people, connect with the people, and that the layout itself is not that important?
It's all me, baby. You know, here's the deal. Like, as realtors, we get sold a bag of goods every single stinking day. Everybody's got to sell us a new stupid product or wants us to use this silly thing. And KW is really great at giving us all these shiny objects. At the end of the day, it is about your relationship with that client. And it's about, do they know you? Do they like you? Do they trust you? And can you get the job done? I mean, I've gone in and gotten listings when I have not even done a market analysis. I just ask them what they want to sell it for. And that has everything to do with my relationship with them. So, I mean, yeah, there's nicer looking products. I don't know. Yeah. What else?
I have a question, kind of more in regards to your experience. And I have clients and they're looking to buy, they just sold their home. We sold it in Thurston and they're looking to buy either land or, you know, a home with land, quite a bit of land. They're willing to do a fixer upper. And we actually found one, we viewed it. We went to go write an offer. I called the agent on the way back just to kind of see like, had she had any other offers and speak to her about, my clients actually noticed on Zillow, of course, that there was, it was previously listed and taken off and relisted, like it was pending and then went back active. So I asked her about it and she divulged that, you know, the septic, there was some issue with the septic and it being like a certain material that was older because the home was super old. And then the well was pumping at like very low numbers, which I'm not familiar with the numbers. Like I grew up in the country as a kid, but I, as an adult, like have no idea. So I called my sellers who both grew up in the country as they were kids and they were instantly like, no, those are horrible. That's terrible. We do not want to put in an offer now. So where would you like educate yourself if you're trying to find more information on like good wells, good septics? They're also looking at like bare land and possibly like building their dream home from the ground up. You know, I know nothing about, can you put a well here? Can you put a septic? Like where's good information regarding those things?
Pam Dietz is where you find good information on those things. Well, gosh, I mean, so those are big questions. So I guess probably where I would start is like, you can always go and research, and your clients, if they, a lot of times the high seas, they will have done this where they can contact the water master themselves and get any like well reports and kind of figure out how deep the wells are, that kind of thing. You know, I usually would call like my well guy that I would have out to like do the well test. And a lot of times you can just ask them like, hey, it's on this road, like how's the water usually, you know, just to kind of get like a feel for, you know, is because like there's areas like off Bailey Hill, for instance, there's really high arsenic. And so everybody knows like it's always going to be high arsenic. There's other parts of town where like, you know, that you probably aren't going to be able to drill very deep. So there's, you know, so like I usually probably just ask them like what you know about it. And then I might also just go pull up other listings that have recently sold nearby and see if they had well reports attached to the listing, because sometimes they do. And then maybe just kind of see like, okay, well, here's what the neighbor's well was like, you know, and so that just, you know, obviously like we would get our own testing and stuff, but that'd be maybe a good place to start. Except like if they're starting from the ground up, that is a whole big ball of wax. Okay, so the biggest thing like to know there is like, so if it needs a septic, it's not like you can just have a septic. A lot of people don't understand that. So they have to dig test pits, and then they have to have like a feasibility test to determine A, if they can even have one, and then B, what type of septic can you have? So you could have a standard septic, you could have a sand filter, there's all different types of septics you could have. And some are obviously more expensive than others. Also, where you can put them on the property is key. Because sometimes you can't put them near the home site that the buyer thought they could have it on. So another big question.
I just felt really like uneducated and unprepared. Like we show up at 55 acres and I'm just like, have a look around. Like I'm here to let you in because I really know nothing else. I have nothing else to tell you. I got my boots on. I'll walk with you, but that's all I got. And I was like, I left and I'm like, oh my gosh, I literally was just like, the key lady, like I let him in and that was it. And they're cool. And she's like really, she does her research, but I didn't like that. I felt like she was way more educated than I was. And I like just felt like I didn't have enough to like offer. And so I just want to find ways to have more information on wells and land and septic and just not sound like I have no idea what I'm doing when I'm out there. So thank you.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I probably I've been there, right? Like, so I usually always call the listing agent ahead of time. I kind of find out what they know. A lot of times the seller already knows something about it because maybe they've attempted to do something or like, who knows, right? So I usually always ask and just kind of see what I can find out. One way to impress them, another app I use is OnX Hunt. I don't know if it's an app people use for hunting actually. So it helps people like to know where property lines are, and so I use it all the time for real estate, so that'll knock people's socks off. I would get that.
And then last question in regards to that, we did actually use that because that's what the listing agent like had us use. But my other question is, well, I just forgot my other question. It's one of those days. Oh my gosh. Well, I'll ask you again later.
Okay, I'll be here. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think you just like, honestly, like it's back to Jeff's question. Like, do you want fancy crap? Well, no, I mean, it's all about me. Like it's the relationship. So don't ever feel like you're an idiot or like, you don't know what you're doing or like, I mean, because it's just, as long as you're there and I think holding their hand and you're with them, like they really could care less about the information that you have.
Okay. And then I figured out my other question. So when I called that first agent on the property and I asked her questions about, why it was on and off the market. And I really didn't know if she would tell me or like if she had to tell me why. So as far as like the well and septic, because there were issues with it, but they're like having them retested. Is that information that she like gave voluntarily and she did not have to give? Is that information that she knew, so she had the duty to give to me because I asked about it, but it's not like posted anywhere, obviously? Like, I'm just kind of wondering, like, is that typical if you call an agent and you say, hey, I was wondering why? Will they really tell you why, if it's going to like sour their situation too, if they knew that they were going to get an offer, because unfortunately it did. And I felt bad, but I was grateful that we didn't put in an offer, get to all the testing. And then my clients would have gone, yeah, no, like this isn't going to work. So.
Okay, I'm going to give you two answers to that question. So the first answer is people are not equal. Like there's some people that are really, really great people are really, really honest and they're going to just be upfront. And then you have some real agents that are real slimy in town. And so I think that will just come with experience to kind of know who you gotta watch. As far as like technically, if they do know about the issue, yes, they do have to disclose it, but it's kind of one of those things where like you have to be smart enough to know the questions to ask, because if you just ask a general question, like they kind of don't really have to answer it. So I mean, that's why I get really specific and really granular with agents about questions, because they do have to. If they do know, then yes, they do have to answer it accurately. Yeah. So cool. Anything else? What else?
Hi, I got a question for you. What are your considerations with pricing something? And just right now, I'm in Central Oregon. The market here is just crazy during a 45-day escrow. What you listed it for when you listed it versus if it was going to be listed when it closed is it's a difference. Do you take any of that into consideration just with your pricing, like knowing that you're going to have a 45-day escrow or something like that? What are your thoughts on that?
You mean like listing it higher because you know the market?
Yes. Yes.
Well, I mean, okay. I think that you have a duty to your seller, like a fiduciary obligation, to give them the correct information about what things have sold for, how long it's going to take. I mean, you have that obligation certainly. Ultimately, it's kind of up to them. Like if they want to price it high, price it high. But you know where it matters is when you get the offer, not when it closes, right? So like kind of the information that we have today is like what I would probably use to price it. I mean, we think the market will go up, right? But
we truly don't know. Yep.
Yeah, I think so.
Yep. Okay, perfect.
But you know, I mean, but you know, that brings a lot, you know, because like there's people that I have talked to, and I had like a buyer yesterday that her exact same house. Well, a bunch of people, stupid people, were telling her, "Oh, you should wait till after the election." Blah blah blah. Well, okay, she's like a single mom, teacher, got thirsted, has no money. Anyway, buys a house. Well, the exact same house is now selling for $40,000 more, and this is like 5 months later, right? So, like, I mean, in a 45-day period, yeah, I think probably maybe you get 10 grand more, but like.
Yeah, but it's truly, you're right. We just truly never know, you know, and we can't predict that. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
What else? Anything else?
Honestly, you were pretty fast and so detailed that I'm kind of just like in a bit of a zone trying to take it all in. I stopped trying to make notes. So we're probably gonna have to watch the recording, but it's great to have all of that experience in front of us. We just don't know necessarily what we need to ask because we don't know what we don't know yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, totally. Well, here's what I would say to that. I think that KW is huge on sharing and helping and all those things. And so, you know, like your first deal or your first listing or second or fifth, whatever, right? Like reach out to the agent nearby. And you know what? There is no agent that would not, like, I have done this many times for agents, especially new ones, where they do a CMA and then I'll sit down with them and go over it. And then I make them practice with me as though I'm the seller, and I will be a terrible seller because I'm going to ask them to defend exactly what they're telling me right now. And I do it all in love, right? But like Amara would do that, or, you know, some of the other probably PC coaches would help you with that, or, you know, other agents. But yeah, feel free to reach out. Like, I think do it the best you can on your own, but then reach out, and there's always going to be someone that'll help you.
That's great to know. Thank you.
I have a quick question. Sorry, I have like a billion questions. So in regards to the CMA on my listing, the first one I did, we did it in December, and I did the CMA, and it like I obviously ran it through Mara, but what I was getting, I did it like 3 times, which took me like forever because I just wasn't happy with the way it looked, because my client is like, she definitely knows everything. She knows what she wants. She knows her numbers. Like, I mean, she's like all about it. So I was just getting really low numbers. I mean, I listed it for $469,000. We sold it for $500,000 is the offer they accepted, but they had escalation clause all the way up to $541,000. So when I was doing my CMA, because there was nothing to compare to it, it was literally coming up like super, hi buddy, like super, super low, just kind of with the comparable. So I talked to Mara and I said, like, I am uncomfortable sending this to her because knowing her, she's going to look at that number and go, I don't think so. Cause I mean, it seemed kind of like a ridiculously low number. And I made sure to tell her that and say, listen, I just don't have a lot to compare it to, which is also like, I just posed it as, I think that's also the advantage to selling your home, and we can put the price at X dollars. So I don't want this number to scare you is kind of how I pose that to her. But does that come up a lot to where like you do a CMA and it seems actually like a lot lower than what you would maybe list it for? Or if there's nothing to compare it to, like how do you, I wanted to give her a realistic number, but not a number that was so low it was going to freak her out, if that makes sense. Because I mean, it did look much lower on my CMA than even what we listed it as, but I just made sure to like reassure her, like I think 469 is a good place to start. I think it's going to get people in, it's a higher number, but it's not going to scare people away either. But I can't remember what the CMA was coming up at the top of my head, but it was more like 550 range. And I just knew that was out of the question. So is that common?
Yeah, I mean, so like, I think no comparables is a symptom of a market with really low inventory, which unfortunately, I mean, this is very, very low. So, I think you can kind of cage your response a little bit like with that and just be like, hey, here's the deal. We just don't have any comparables. Sometimes I just ask them just like the elephant in the room is just, what do you want to sell your house for? Right. So like, just ask them, what do you want to sell it for? Whatever number they give you, the probably is going to sell it for that, like my crazy people in Veneta that wanted 550 after they listed it for 489 and they got it, right? Like that's nuts. But there's no comps to support that. And so I guess probably the second part of that conversation I have, and this is what I just had with my Veneta people, was like, well, that's cool that you got an offer for that, but like now it has to appraise there too, so it's an appraisers. In appraisers, I mean, I have a lot of friends that are appraisers. I mean, it's a nightmare when you have like something that doesn't have a lot of comparables too. So yeah, I don't know. Ask what they want to sell for. Go with that. What else? What else? Anything else? Anything else?
Do you use any other CMA softwares? I know there's a lot out there besides your MLS.
I don't.
Okay. What about RPR? Do you like that?
No.
Okay.
Okay, like again, it's probably super cool, and so I probably should care more about it. But I think that I've just built my business not using those things, and things are going okay for me. So I just haven't looked into it.
Sweet. Keep it simple, right?
Yeah.
I like it. Thank you.
Anything else?
Yeah, I have a question that's regarding because I have a seller that he's want to sell his property, but in the future, it's like a saying like within like next year, I mean this year, June, sometimes like they have a property that their property is like within eminent domain, the government is taking a small portion of the property. So if we sell right now, do we have to mention in the contract
that the government is going to exercise eminent domain to take a portion of the property?
Yeah, because of they want to widen the road, so that's why.
Yes, you do have to mention that. There's actually in the property disclosures, there's a question that asks specifically that. So yeah, you would have to discuss that.
How is the price gonna affect that one? I mean, because it's happening in the future, and with the current price and the square feet of the property, do we have to include like how much it is, or?
So what I would do in that situation is, yes, I would 100% disclose it. I would obviously have it in the disclosures, but that's probably something that like, just to be a good agent, like I would make a point to tell people that too, just in case they don't catch that. And I guess, here's the deal with the government, like things change, right? So I would probably send all of the information and documentation that you currently have available to you, so that you can demonstrate you're operating on the best knowledge that you have at the moment right? But like, I mean, that's a dicey, right? Because like maybe they say right now we're only going to take 10 feet, and then plans change and they want, more. So or less would be great. But I mean, I think like that's just tough if it's in the future, because that's kind of things, a lot of things can change. So
If I put it in a sale, so I should go with like current market price, right? So not like something lower than that because of this situation, or should I go with the current market price?
I mean, you might. I mean, if it's just like, I mean, are we talking? I guess it kind of depends on how much property we're talking, and like, is how much they're gonna take gonna impact, the like the how much people like the property, right? Like, I guess I'm trying to think of a good example. Like if this is 20 acres and they're going to take 10 feet, who really cares? Like not a big deal, right? But if it's just a tiny lot and then they're going to take 10 feet, does that mean the front door is now going to be like on the sidewalk? You know what I mean? To where it would make the maybe potentially property like less desirable.
Yeah. It's actually the not front, like a back, a small portion of the backyard. It's not affecting the front.
Okay. I mean, might not be that big of a deal. I think ultimately I'd probably just price it at the current price, right? I would put into the listing, like in the private remarks, and very disclose all of this, right, up front, because I think that's the other issue is protecting your seller. Like you don't want to throw it out there at like market value, then get a bunch of offers, accept an offer, and then drop this bomb on the buyer, and then they bail, and now your property has been off the market, and you got to put it back on the market and back off the market, and so now you've made this issue a huge issue to where buyers are like, what's wrong with the property? And then you have to tell them, and now even if it's not that big of a deal, they are going to freak out about it, So I'd just be super upfront about it. Hey guys, here's what's up. You can buy it at this price. In the future, this could happen. Here's what we know. Here's the documentation. But just, and then I would 100% put that in your contingency release at closing, that you disclose that, because I could see a lawsuit brewing if they ever wanted to say that, like, you didn't disclose that. So, and I think that's the deal, right? Like people will pay. What people don't like is surprises, and this is a huge purchase, and so like you don't want to have a deal going and then drop something on it. And so that's why, like in the beginning, when I talked about, flood insurance, right? Like people will still buy houses all day long that have flood insurance. When they won't buy them is when they're surprised by the flood insurance. So like this would be like where you just upfront, here's the deal, like buy it or don't.
Stephanie, I have another one. It's not so much about pricing homes, but we've been talking about this as a group a little bit with such a short time frame and so few inventory that some sellers are scared to list because they don't have a place to go to next.
Yes.
And we've heard different people say different ways to get around that and some creative ways. And you've got to be experiencing the same thing where your sellers are saying, do you find a house first and then list yours, right? Do you list it now and then live in a rental somewhere where you try to find one, become a better offer when you sell yours and have more cash to put down, and probably everything in between? I'm just curious if you have any suggestions or help for us when we're talking to someone thinking about selling, but they're afraid because they don't have a place to go.
Well, yeah, that's the conversation we have every day. Okay, well, here's my tactics. So I let them know that undoubtedly, like, we will be able to sell your house. Like, I have no concern about that. And likely it's going to sell quickly too. So usually what I will encourage is, if it is possible, if they're committed to like a move, like they got another baby on the way, or whatever life situation is occurring that's causing them to say, well, we unequivocally need a larger home or whatever. I will see if they have like a way that they can like put stuff in storage, go live with family, go rent for a little bit. Like, what could they do so that we could sell this? They could have the money and then be ready to make the purchase, because ultimately they're going to be a stronger buyer in the eyes of the seller anyway if they don't have a contingent deal. And I've seen, I mean, some of these houses are having like 10 to 20 offers. Like, you know, I mean, anything with a contingency, like that one goes to the bottom of the pile. Like, so I kind of just tell them like, you're going to be a much stronger buyer. I know it's inconvenient, but you're going to be a much stronger buyer and potentially get a better deal if you have just the cash in hand and you're ready to go versus, you know, that. If that's absolutely not an option, something I do, and this kind of helps me sometimes to like get the listing secured, is I'll just say, hey, here's the deal. If we get into a situation where like you actually get your contingent offer accepted, we have to put in there how soon it would be listed within. And so that seller, if they're going to take a chance on you, like it better be like within a day, right? Like you don't have a week to get your carpet cleaned. Like this is not going to work. So I will make them get everything ready to go. And then I will have my professional photographer go in and do photos, do a virtual tour, do a walkthrough, everything. So it is ready to go. And so then when I sell it to the listing agent, I can say, okay, we're ready to go. I not only have pictures, here are the pictures, like here's the marketing. And sometimes that even helps to sell to the other seller why they should take your contingent offer, because like, yeah, it's contingent, but like we're on it, we're ready to go. And then it also helps your buyer, who is also your seller, to be secure in wanting to list with you, because now you've already invested time, you have photos. Well, we can't go with anybody else because she's got the pictures. Can't do this all over again. So sometimes I will do that too. That's a good trick. Anything else?
I just asked a question in the chat box.
Yes, I see that.
Okay. And I'm just curious on that because I know like in this market, there are a lot of people who are going, yes, I can get, you know, a lot of money, maybe that they, you know, due to COVID, due to their job change, because there's like such severe job changes right now or job loss, all these things. So if they have not lived in their home for 2 years, but have like, you know, a medical reason, a job reason, you know, something in that range, where would they get good information on capital gains tax and if they were going to get taxed for selling their home and not living in it for 2 years? Like, where would you direct somebody to that?
So if they have a CPA that they work with, whoever does their taxes, I'd probably first have them contact that person. Because capital gains, but also, you know, there's a lot of other factors that would go into if what type of a taxable event that would be for them. So I would probably have them start there. If they don't have one, I'd give them yours. And then, I mean, unfortunately, like the title company won't be for liability. They won't even answer questions on it anymore. Otherwise, I would have said to go there. I would probably have them do that.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else?
Thank you, Stephanie. This stuff was awesome.
Good. Okay, I'm glad. Well, if anybody has questions, I'm available. I'm happy to help. Let me know. I know it was a lot of information, but here for whatever you guys need. So, go. Okay.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Yes, you betcha.
Great. Thank you.
Yes, of course. Okay. Bye, guys.